Hey guys, it's Jeremy here at Mental Music Meltdown, back with another video. What I have today, guys, is another album review. Pretty highly anticipated album this year for metalheads. It's the debut solo album from the Kerry King of Slayer, of course. Just released today, May 17th, 2024, through Raining Phoenix. 13 tracks in total, 46 minutes and change in length. And starting with the artwork, pretty stereotypical of Kerry King kind of visuals, red and black color tone, upside down cross. The album's called From Hell I Rise. Of course, he tries to maintain that Satan look, Satan themes, and pretty cool artwork. Like looks pretty badass. I'm not sure if it's AI generated or it was actually painted or whatever, but it might be an AI generation. A lot of bands have been doing that lately, which is kind of weird. But let's get into the album. Going into this album, guys, I wasn't expecting too much, to be honest with you. It's pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be, a continuation of Slayer, but not even good Slayer, like the old school God tier Slayer, more the mediocre kind of like ant Slayer. A lot of these songs, from my understanding, were leftover kind of songs they were working on during the Repentless time around 2019, and they probably just kind of fine-tuned them, worked on them some more, finished them up, and added some tracks to this album. But I find a lot of the songs in this have definitely a Repentless feel to them. The riffs are very similar. The song structure is very similar. And it's just, in my opinion, okay, mediocre Slayer continuation, in my opinion. Kerry King writes some good riffs. I won't slash him that bad, but I find his riffs are kind of one-noted. They're kind of always the same. He's really heavy on the squealing and the D-bombs and I don't know. He's just like, I find his riffs to be kind of repetitive and kind of like I've heard that before 100 times, do something different. But adding in Phil Demmel was a good addition. He's from Ex Machine Head. Actually, just to go through the band members quick. Of course, Kerry King on guitars, Phil Demmel on guitar, Mark Garciago on vocals, but still in Death Angel. Kyle Sanders on bass and Paul Bostaph on drums, of course, also formerly of Slayer. But Phil Demmel definitely added a slight different dimension to this. On the song Where I Reign, he had this kind of a neoclassical solo in it. Halfway through the song, I thought that was pretty cool, a little bit different, not a typical Slayer sounding solo. But like I said, 13 tracks in total. It's just mediocre Slayer sounding music. Like, I know a lot of the guys will give me shit in the comments saying, well, Kerry King's from Slayer. He was with them for like 30 or 40 years. Would you expect him to write? That's what he knows. That's what he likes to write. I understand that, guys, but I don't know. Like, try something different. Like, even Marcos Riego, his vocal delivery, his cadence in his vocals, it sounds like he's trying to sound like Tom Araya. It's like Kerry King just wanted to continue Slayer, and the other band and like Tom just didn't want to anymore. So he just got a new vocalist and made a new Slayer record and called it a solo record. Mark's vocals are killer on this album. That's probably the standard on this album, to be honest. He's got a really good grit in his voice, a lot of anger, a lot of brutality to it. It kind of reminded me of old school Tom when he was young and had that fire in his belly. But it sounds really good. But like I said, he tries to sound a little too much like Tom. I wish he would just put a little bit more of his own mark on it. Paul Bostaph on drums is pretty good. Does his thing. Nothing too crazy there, but did a really good job. The bass you couldn't really hear on most of the songs on this album. There's a couple that you could kind of hear it here and there, but I found the bass to be way back in the mix on the album as well. Kerry King's leads and stuff were pretty much stereotypical Kerry King, really chunky, fast for the sake of being fast kind of leads and rhythms. Nothing too out of the box there. The opening track, Diablo, is kind of a 2-minute instrumental opener kind of build. This kind of sounds cool, but I don't think it was really necessary, because the second track, Where I Reign, has a lot of brutality and aggression in it right off the top. It does really grab you, so I don't think they really needed the intro at the beginning to really go lead into it. I think they would have been fine just starting with Where I Reign. I think that's my favorite track on the album, to be honest with you. It's the most brutal, has a high energy all the way through the song. It's brutal, it's heavy. Really, that's a good tune. The second track, Residual, was the second single. I didn't listen to it until after the album came out today. And to be honest with you guys, I don't like that song at all. I just like the pacing of the song. It just doesn't connect with me somehow. I don't like the way it sounds. The first single, Idle Hands, track number 4, was decent. Kind of another just typical thrashy, mediocre Slayer song. And then I found myself by track 7 and 8 kind of like losing interest in just kind of my mind going somewhere else. And it just didn't keep my attention, to be honest with you guys. I had to listen to the album a couple times just to get through it, to be honest. The last part of the album just didn't really keep my attention at all. One song on it, number 10, the Two Fist song, was a little bit different. It sounded like more of a punky sound to it. And it had this kind of more of a groove kind of riff undertone to it that was a little bit different, a little bit cool. But otherwise, the other songs in the rest of the album, like Crucifixion, Toxic, Rage, Shrapnel, all just mediocre, good, heavy thrash songs. Nothing too mind-blowing, nothing surprising. Good and heavy and thrashy still, but something I've heard a million times before from Slayer, and just mediocre Slayer, to be honest. So if you guys want to hear a continuation of Slayer, definitely check this out. If you're craving new Slayer sounding songs, you'll definitely like this. If you're want new material from Slayer, if you want, but don't expect it to be mind blowing. It's just kind of like, it's just okay. I just wish they would have put a little bit different twist on it. The songwriting was just kind of mediocre and boring to me, to be honest. The riffs are decent, but again, Kerry King's been writing the same riffs for like 30 years, and I don't know, it just gets boring after a while. I find the songwriting to be like kind of lackluster, and it kind of reminded me why in Slayer, the earlier kind of god tier Slayer material, a big part of that was Jeff Hanneman. That kind of really made me think about that when I was listening to this record, how crucial Jeff Hanneman was in the writing process in the Slayer material, because everything Jeff was on was the best Slayer stuff. The stuff that was more written by Kerry King was like kind of more repetitive and mediocre, to be honest with you. So let me know what you guys thought of the album down below. For a rating, I'm only going to give it a 6 out of 10, to be honest with you guys. I was pretty disappointed. And for a Slayer sounding album to lose my attention, 2/3 of the way through the album isn't a good sign. I'm going to give it a couple more listens and give it a try. If I buy it, would I buy it on physical copy? Maybe if it was cheap or like, $12 or something, I might pick it up, but nothing too crazy. If you threw this in on a Slayer playlist, if one of the songs came on here, you probably wouldn't even know it's not Slayer. You would just think it's another Slayer song. So let me know down below, guys, what you thought of the album. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Didn't really blow me away. Kind of disappointed. I found it to be pretty boring and mediocre, to be honest. So stay tuned for more great content coming up this weekend, guys. And until next time, keep it metal.